I'm 70 years old this past March, and I was sitting here this morning early, before Carol woke up, before the house had any noise in it, just sitting, and this thought came to me. Not for the first time, but maybe more clearly than before. I did everything I was supposed to do. Everything. Every single thing they told me a good man does. And I did it without complaining, without asking too many questions, without making things difficult for anyone. So why does it feel like I missed my own life? I've been sitting with that question for a few years now, and I think I'm finally starting to understand the answer. Not because I found peace with it, but because I stopped running from it. Let me go back, because it starts early. It always starts early. When I was a boy, maybe 9, 10 years old, I used to draw. I drew everything. The street outside our window, my mother's hands, the old dog we had, Biscuit, who slept under the kitchen table. I had these sketchbooks, cheap ones my mother bought me at the five and dime, and I filled them up, page after page. I wasn't thinking about whether I was good at it. I wasn't thinking about anything. I was just happy. Quietly, completely happy. My father saw me drawing one afternoon. I remember it clearly. I was at the kitchen table, and he came in from work, still in his coat, and he looked over my shoulder for a moment, and he said, not cruelly, I want to be clear, he wasn't a cruel man. He said, "That's nice, son, but artists don't feed families." That was it. That was the whole conversation. He didn't yell, he didn't take the sketchbook away, he just said that one sentence and went to wash his hands before dinner. But I heard it. God, I heard it. And slowly, not overnight, but slowly, I started drawing less. And then I stopped. Because I had understood something. I had understood that what I loved wasn't serious, that what made me happy wasn't useful, that the right thing to do was to be practical, to be responsible, to make my father proud. I was 10 years old, and I had already learned to trade what I wanted for what was approved of. I studied engineering. I was decent at it, not passionate, but decent. And decent was enough, because decent got me a job. The job got me a salary, the salary got me a house and a car, and the look on my father's face when he told his friends what his son did for a living. And I told myself, this is what men do. This is what responsible men do. You find something stable, you work hard, you provide. You don't chase feelings. You don't chase some dream that might not pay the bills. Every Sunday night for about 30 years, I felt a heaviness in my chest, just sitting there, knowing Monday was coming. Not dread exactly, more like a dullness, like a color that should be bright but isn't quite. I never talked about it, not to anyone, because what would I even say? I have a good job, I have a family, I have everything a man is supposed to want. What right do I have to feel like something is missing? So I swallowed it. Week after week, year after year, I swallowed it and went back on Monday and did good work and got promoted and swallowed it again. When Carol and I were young, newly married, early 30s, there were things I wanted to say to her. Real things about who I was, about what I was afraid of, about this feeling I carried that I didn't quite understand yet. I never said them. Not because she wasn't safe. She was. She would have listened. But I had spent so long training myself to suppress my own needs that I didn't even know how to access them anymore. I'd start to say something honest, and then some voice inside me would say, "Don't make this difficult. Don't be a burden. Keep the peace." So I kept the peace. And slowly, without either of us noticing, I stopped showing her who I really was. I showed her the version of me that was manageable, that was easy to live with, that didn't ask for too much. She married a man. She got a function. And the worst part is, I thought that was love. I genuinely thought that holding yourself back, not causing trouble, always being steady, I thought that was what love looked like. We raised 2 kids. I was proud of them. I am proud of them. They're educated, they're successful, they work hard. But sitting here at 70, I ask myself something I don't love asking. Did I raise them, or did I just produce them? Because I was always working, always providing, always making sure the future was secure. And I told myself that was for them. That was all for them. But they don't call much now. And I wonder sometimes, did I show them how to be successful? Or did I show them how to be busy? Did I show them that achievement matters more than presence? Did I pass down the same quiet trade I learned from my father, approval over authenticity, without ever meaning to? I think maybe I did, and that one keeps me up at night more than anything else. It was a Tuesday, about 3 months ago now. Carol had asked me to clean out the old storage closet at the end of the hallway, one of those jobs that sits on a list for years and never gets done. I wasn't in any particular mood. I was just doing it because she asked. I pulled out boxes, old tax documents, a broken lamp I kept meaning to fix, winter coats that hadn't been worn in a decade. And then, near the back, behind a box of the kids' old school things, I found it. A small stack of sketchbooks, held together with a rubber band that crumbled the moment I touched it. I stood there for a moment before I even opened them. I don't know why. Something told me to just stand there for a second. And then I opened the first one. There was the street outside our old house, my mother's hands, biscuit under the kitchen table, page after page of a boy who was just alive, just completely, freely, unself-consciously alive. I sat down on the floor of that closet. I didn't plan to. My legs just went. And I whispered something. I wasn't even fully aware I was saying it out loud. I said, I remember this boy. And then I sat there trying to remember when I left him behind, trying to find the exact moment. But there wasn't one. That's the thing. There was no single moment. It was 1,000 small ones, 1,000 small surrenders, each one so reasonable at the time, each one so easy to justify. My father's voice, just be practical, son. My own voice, Sunday after Sunday, this is what responsible men do. The look on people's faces when I told them what I did for a living, that look of approval I had chased for 60 years like it was oxygen. I sat on that floor for a long time. Carol eventually came to find me. She stood in the doorway and looked at me, sitting there with the sketchbook open in my lap. And she didn't say anything for a moment. And then she said, quietly, "Are those your old drawings?" I nodded. She said, "You were good." And I don't know why. That broke something open in me. Such a small thing, such a simple thing. But I had to look away because I thought, what if I had believed that when it mattered? What if I had trusted that just once when I was 10 years old and my father walked away from that kitchen table? What would my life have looked like? I'm not going to sit here and tell you it would have been better. Maybe I would have struggled. Maybe I would have failed. Maybe I would have ended up right here in this same chair with different regrets. I don't know. But I never found out. And not finding out, that's the part that stays with me. I want to be honest about something else, because I've been doing a lot of thinking, and I don't want to be unfair. My father wasn't wrong about everything. We didn't have money. He was trying to protect me. He came from a generation that had lived through real hardship, real scarcity, and to him, practical meant safe, and safe meant love. I understand that now in a way I couldn't when I was young. And I don't blame him. I don't blame my wife. I don't blame my kids. I don't blame the job or the times or the expectations I grew up with. Because at some point, at many points, I had a choice. Maybe a small one, maybe a hard one, but a choice. And I kept choosing the path that asked the least of me emotionally, the path that kept everyone comfortable, the path that looked right from the outside. That was me. That was my decision, made quietly over and over for 70 years. And owning that is uncomfortable, but it's also the only honest thing I can do at this point. I'm 70 years old. My body tells me things now that it didn't used to. I move slower, I get tired in ways that surprise me, and I'm aware, more than I used to let myself be aware, that I have less time ahead of me than behind me. I bought a sketchbook last week. Nothing fancy, just a plain one from the drugstore, and some pencils. I've drawn 3 things so far. They're not good. My hands shake a little, and my eyes aren't what they were. But I sat at this cable 2 mornings ago, early, before Carol woke up, and I drew the tree in the backyard. And for about 20 minutes, I wasn't thinking about what I should have done, or what I didn't do, or what I left behind. I was just there, 70 years old, and I was just there. I don't know if you're my age or somewhere in the middle, but I'll tell you what I know, not as advice, not as a lesson, just as a man who's been somewhere and come back with something to say. Don't wait. Not because life is short. You've heard that. It doesn't land until it's too late. But because the self you keep postponing doesn't disappear. It just goes quiet. It waits. It shrinks down into something small and patient, and it stays there, behind all the obligations and the roles and the responsible decisions. And one day you might find it in an old closet, in a rubber-banded sketchbook, in the hands of a boy you used to be. And you'll remember him, and you'll wonder, the way I wonder now in the early morning quiet of this house. When exactly did I leave him behind? And why did I wait so long to go back? The tree in my backyard looks the same as it always did. I just never took the time to really see it before. That's the whole story, I suppose. That's all of it. If something in this stayed with you, maybe it was meant to.